When the Pope offers redemption through aggression, you know things are gonna get ugly. Welcome to Watch Mojo's Top 5 Myths, the series that finds the biggest myths that people actually believe and dispels them one by one. In today's installment, we're looking at the top 5 myths about the Crusades.
Assemble the army!
Myth number 5, the Crusaders exclusively fought Muslims. What were the Crusades? Well, how about this? Christians, conversion, and a war against Muslims. Well, hold up now, because the Crusaders didn't wage battle exclusively against Muslims like you might believe. Essentially, the Crusades were about territory, and the first crusade transpired when Pope Urban II organised a mass pilgrimage to the Holy Land. Deus Vult, or God wills it, functioned as the 11th century hashtag of the time, yet the primary goal for many wasn't to fight Muslims. It was to wash away their own sins in the name of Christianity. And while a large number of Muslims were killed, Jews were also murdered, most notably when the German Count Emicho initiated community slaughters within his own country. And by the end of the Fourth Crusade, even Orthodox Christians were murdered during the sack of Constantinople. Myth number 4, all Crusaders wore white with a red cross. Believe it or not, there was no official dress code for the Crusades, and given the peasants and plenty of sketchy individuals were recruited for the First Crusade, well, they just wore what they had. Remember, one of Pope Urban II's promotional tools was the offering of indulgences, meaning even the most troubled of peasants could be forgiven for their sins.
He told us whoever went on crusade would receive blessings from the church, remission from sin.
Of course, the popular image associated with the Crusades involves some white threads complemented by a bloody red cross. And sure, plenty of folks dressed up as such. They were called rich knights. So Christian Crusaders weren't exactly turned away for their weak or questionable style. Myth number 3, the Children's Crusade was a thing. If you've ever seen the 1987 film Lionheart, or even The Gates to Paradise by the great Andrzej Wajda, then perhaps you're familiar with the supposed Children's Crusade of 1212. After all, it's a well-known tale. On paper, the narrative is intense. 11th century German kids feel inspired, and embark on a rather lengthy hike to the Holy Land via Italy. But they had one major obstacle, the Mediterranean Sea. Yet the entitled Children's Crusaders apparently expected the water to dry up for them, and well, it didn't. In reality, the crusade is documented as being a youth movement rather than a child one, and furthermore, it wasn't officially sanctioned by the Pope, so it wasn't exactly a crusade to begin with. Myth number 2, the Crusaders lost more than they won. Let's be clear, the Crusaders lost from time to time, and given some of the major fails from the Third and Fourth Crusades, i.e. the failure to take Jerusalem, it's easy to designate the Christian Crusaders as just a bunch of violent nuts that freaked out over religion and territory. Yet the Crusaders had enormous success early on, especially given the internal conflict within the Seljuk Empire. In fact, the Crusaders did manage to secure Jerusalem in 1099, closing out the First Crusade and establishing Crusader states in Tripoli, Antioch, Edessa, and of course, Jerusalem. And so the concept of crusading only grew from there, as politics, religion, and territorial control evolved into a larger beast of burden for everybody involved.
An army of Jesus Christ which bears his holy cross cannot be beaten.
And by the Third Crusade, Richard the Lionheart employed only 9 Crusaders, a tight little unit that understood strategy. They lost quite a bit, but their synergy and affinity for castles gave them the upper hand over their more disorganized enemies. Myth number 1, the Crusades were exclusively a holy war.
What is Jerusalem worth?
It's impossible to get inside the head of Pope Urban II, but as the First Crusade began, the ultimate goal was to bring Christianity to the Holy Land. As mentioned, the Crusaders slaughtered Jews and they most definitely killed Muslims in their quest. Territory was the name of the game, and the various factions of Crusaders bonded through their shared interest towards a common goal. And while religion was obviously a big part of the conversation, the Crusaders didn't seek to convert Muslims or Jews, nor did they pillage or provoke them based solely on religion. Of course, this was made blatantly clear by the end of the Fourth Crusade, as the Crusaders sacked Byzantine-controlled Constantinople, which didn't go over too well back in Rome. And so the Crusades were not a holy war, but a war for territorial control.
You go to certain death.
All death is certain.
So which of these myths did you believe? For more educational top 10s and historical top 5s, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com.
God wills it! God wills it!